Alright, strap in because the catastrophic mess surrounding Ashley Janney and Joe McCann is spiraling out of control. Believe me, this isn't some basic news leak. It's descending into a total nightmare. The head of criminal probes and Zanzibar locals are flooding the internet with chilling evidence, and the receipts are pouring in relentlessly. Most of this spicy intel is leaking in Swahili straight from witnesses who saw the tragedy ignite, but we've decoded every single syllable to reconstruct this horror story. Buckle up, because the vibes are getting seriously sinister. Investigators allege that Ashley Janney and Joe McCann were at war from the jump. The very second they hit the shores of Zanzibar, the atmosphere was toxic. We aren't talking about minor tiffs. These were explosive, escalating showdowns that intensified the moment they landed. And it gets even creepier because Joe wasn't moving like your average vacationer. Not by a long shot. While the world thought he was just another clueless tourist, the truth is much grittier. Rumor has it he carried himself like a man who owned the island, as if he had a secret past there. That is exactly when the red flags turned into alarms. Local sources claim Joe would abandon Ashley Janney inside their villa for mysterious, extended periods. And while he was gone, locals allege he was busy chasing other women. That betrayal was more than enough to fuel their violent feuds. Bystanders are now dropping bombshells about how visibly shaken Ashley looked. One insider revealed Joe would ghost for hours, then waltz back gaslighting her by acting like the chaos was imaginary. That sociopathic behavior only pushed everything to the brink. But the rabbit hole goes deeper. Joe McCann was reportedly linked to a local Zanzibar contact who has officially been detained for interrogation. Obviously, this opens a massive door for serious suspicion regarding what was truly occurring behind those doors. And then there is another insane detail making this entire ordeal feel haunted. Rumors allege that one of Ashley Janney's prized possessions, her diamond engagement ring, was located under bizarre circumstances that lack any logic. No clear answers, just more chaos stacked onto an already terrifying mess. Here is the part that is hardest to stomach, the official timeline report. It is practically invisible online right now, almost as if crucial pieces of this tragedy are being scrubbed. However, after scavenging through local intel, I successfully traced the receipts back to a Zanzibar news outlet. According to the Chief of Criminal Investigations, they have begun assembling a forensic, minute-by-minute breakdown of the end. Now, this is where the noose starts tightening. Officials confirm that Joe McCann and Ashley Janney hit the Melia Hotel, checking into Villa 25 with plans to stay until April 10, 2026. On the outside, it looked like paradise, but behind the curtain, everything was crumbling. The investigation claims the hostility wasn't just whispered. It was violent, explosive, and impossible to ignore. It reached a peak where a neighbor staying in Villa 24 felt forced to intervene and notify hotel security. Just visualize that for a moment. A scene so nuclear that total strangers had to step in. That is when staff made a desperate call. They separated the couple immediately to stop the bleeding. Here is the play-by-play. Joe McCann was booted from Villa 25 and moved to Villa 65, a long 10-minute hike from where Ashley Janney remained. So, at that exact point, they were physically apart, but the toxic energy hadn't faded. Now, pay lethal attention to this next detail because it screams louder than you think. Around 7:30 p.m. on the night the world shifted, a hotel attendant was doing his usual rounds. When he hit Villa 25 to check on Ashley Janney, she spoke to him directly and requested something mundane, a phone charger. Just a regular request, right? But in a mystery like this, the tiniest detail carries tons of weight. That brief interaction is now a pillar of the official timeline being dissected. This is where the energy turns heavy. The attendant handed Ashley Janney the charger and continued his routine, stopping at Villas 24 and 26 as scheduled. But right before he left, Ashley Janney gave a specific instruction: return in exactly 10 minutes to retrieve the charger. That small detail is everything. According to the director, the clock broke. Instead of 10 minutes, the attendant returned nearly 20 minutes later. When he reached Villa 25, he knocked, but there was total silence. No answer, no life, and creepily, every single light was killed. Instantly, his gut twisted. He didn't wait, using his emergency key to breach the door. What he discovered completely destroyed him. Inside the villa, Ashley Janney was found in a horrific state involving a bathrobe belt near the closet. The report says she was still conscious, but barely, clinging to life and fighting in that moment, which made the alarm even more frantic. There was no stalling. The attendant immediately sounded the siren for backup. Security scrambled in, and Ashley Janney was rushed to a nearby clinic for emergency care. After initial treatment, She was transferred to a specialized hospital. But despite the desperate efforts, she flatlined the next day at 3 p.m. That outcome left the internet paralyzed. Now, this is where the plot holes get massive. Questions started exploding immediately about the real truth. Look back at that moment. The attendant gave Ashley Janney a charger, correct? It is possible he mentioned his shift was ending, which explains why she wanted him back ASAP. At first, that seems logical. But then a different narrative leaked from Zanzibar locals, and it completely flipped the script. According to insiders, Joe McCann was not a stranger to the island. In fact, they claim he had visited multiple times prior. And it doesn't stop there. Some allege he wasn't just familiar with the map, he actually knew people working at the resort. That is exactly where serious suspicion ignites, because once that leaked, everyone started questioning the timeline. Analyze the math. Staff claim Joe was relocated 10 minutes away to create distance. Then there is this microscopic window where the attendant leaves and finds the body. The internet is dissecting this because the sequence feels too convenient, almost as if it was designed to prove Joe couldn't have been near Villa 25. It feels too polished, like every detail was cleaned to avoid any overlap. Still, we must stay objective. These are allegations, not convictions. But you see why the public is skeptical, especially if Joe McCann knew the terrain and how everything functioned. This next layer is what is truly paralyzing the conversation. Some locals allege that because Joe McCann was a Zanzibar regular, he knew how the gears turned behind the curtain. They are hinting at something sinister, that he understood how to move without detection. There is even talk that certain local systems can be bought, leading many to wonder if his history gave him a lethal advantage if things escalated. That perspective alone changed the entire lens of this tragedy. It goes even deeper. Reports say authorities interrogated 10 individuals, including staff and a friend of Joe's who was also on the island. That detail suggests he had a stronger network there than anyone imagined. People are also noting how comfortable Joe looked in that setting. The fact that he had connections and friends flying in from abroad makes this feel haunted. Then there is the part that is infuriating the public. Ashley Janney's family is still starving for autopsy results. Even though rumors suggest it is done, the delay is raising alarms. Why is the truth being withheld? Now, with claims of shady connections and no direct answers, the vibe is pure confusion. This next part is gut-wrenching. Ashley Janney's father was forced to fly to Washington, D.C. just to beg U.S. officials to pressure Tanzania for info. Even after that, the drip feed of intel is pathetic. Final answers are still out of reach. That radio silence has the internet asking lethal questions. What is triggering the stalling? Why are pivotal facts missing when so much drama has erupted? Digital outrage is skyrocketing because externally, this puzzle feels broken. It feels like vital evidence is being gatekept. Like there are gaping holes no one has bridged yet. But that is merely one fragment fans are dissecting. Another query keeps surfacing. What actually ignited the explosive fights between Ashley Janney and Joe McCann? According to a Zanzibar insider, those clashes stemmed directly from Joe's trash behavior during the getaway. The allegation is that he would ditch the villa constantly, vanishing into the streets to chase other women. Every time he ghosted, it pushed their sanity to the edge. This wasn't some quiet affair, either. Leaks suggest one of their screaming matches blew up in public near the lobby. Allegedly, a guy showed interest in Ashley Janney, and the vibe turned nuclear. Joe snapped, and Ashley clapped back by exposing his own shady moves. That confrontation escalated instantly in front of everyone, and from that second on, the temperature stayed boiling. That non-stop friction followed them throughout the entire trip. But even with all that toxicity, it doesn't solve the riddle of how things ended so violently. That is the part people can't stop scouring. That is the part that feels haunted. Now, a fresh perspective has entered the chat. A close confidant of Ashley Janney has leaked what Ashley confessed before they even boarded the plane. According to her, Ashley was already paralyzed by fear. She had been seriously plotting to dump him due to ongoing warfare and deeper red flags. So, when you zoom out and scan the whole picture, the pre-trip terror, the disgusting behavior on the island, and the aftermath, it paints a much grimmer portrait, one far more sinister than anyone first guessed. This next nugget adds even more weight. According to that same bestie, Ashley considered leaving Joe McCann, but something trapped her. She felt terrified of how he might erupt. The friend labeled him as intense and unpredictable, and that hesitation, that pure fear, changed her destiny. After hearing that, I scoured Joe McCann's history, and the receipts are bone-chilling. There is a report from 2018 about his first marriage, and the opening detail is a massive red flag. His ex-wife labeled her wedding day as one of the bleakest choices she had ever made. Pause on that. A wedding is supposed to be pure bliss, but this sounded like regret and pressure. It gets even weirder. During the vows, she didn't walk with her father. She walked solo. That detail alone has everyone wondering what was happening backstage. Because moments like that don't happen without a dark reason. Why would a father abandon such a pivotal moment? Some believe it proves he had massive concerns about Joe McCann even back then. Obviously, that is speculation, but it stands out when you link it to the current nightmare. There are claims Joe manipulated that moment, forcing her to walk alone. As she made that walk, she reportedly spoke about empty promises he had fed her, which adds another layer to how we view him today. When you stack those past crimes against what is happening to Ashley Janney, a pattern emerges that you cannot ignore. This next part is brutal because it exposes a vow that meant nothing. During that ceremony, Joe McCann reportedly told his ex, "You will never have to walk alone again." It sounds heroic, but here is the sick twist. By 2021, he had ditched that marriage while she was pregnant with their second baby. That contrast has flipped the lens for everyone. It is forcing a different perspective. There are also rumors swirling that the relationship was loaded with volatile, violent episodes, which is why investigators are connecting those past traumas to Ashley Janney's case. Across social media, detectives are connecting the dots, believing Joe was the aggressor escalating every conflict. Still, remember, these are allegations, not guilty verdicts. Shifting back to the current horror, investigators reportedly confirmed there were zero signs of a break-in at Ashley Janney's villa. That fact immediately narrows the focus on what went down inside. Then there is the engagement ring, and this is where things get truly haunted. Reports allege the ring was found inside a rental car stashed near the hotel. What triggered alarm, according to the leaks, was that the jewelry had bizarre markings on it, prompting forensics to take a lethal look. It was reportedly shipped off for testing to identify whose DNA is on those marks. Now, to be clear, this hasn't been fully verified by official channels, so it remains a massive question mark. We also need to kill some misinformation spreading like wildfire. A ton of people are tagging the wrong resort. Ashley Janney was not at the hotel with the famous lion. To clear the fog, that place is in a totally different town, not Zanzibar where this tragedy erupted. That confusion is fake news. The crew at Serval Wildlife Sanctuary actually stepped up to shut it down. They dropped a statement saying, "We hear your outrage and are shattered by this tragedy." They confirmed that during her visit, she was glowing and happy, which showed in her content. They made it clear that when Ashley Janney left their land, she was in a perfect state of mind. Plus, they stressed the incident did not happen on their watch and they have zero intel on who she was with later. They urged the public to stick to official receipts, which is exactly what everyone is begging for. When you zoom out, the spotlight swings back to Zanzibar, where the war between Ashley Janney and Joe McCann turned lethal. That is the place where he had the home field advantage. Reports still claim he was neglecting her for other women, which likely shattered her mentally. When you remember this happened right after a proposal, it makes the horror feel even heavier. Right now, the million-dollar question is, what actually killed Ashley Janney, and was there outside interference? Those answers rest with officials, but the world is starving. With every delay, the theories get louder. At this point, all eyes are on Tanzania to drop the truth and bring clarity to this chaos. I need your take. How do you see this mystery ending? Sound off in the comments and blast this video so the world stays awake.